I'm going to start by introducing the topic today. So it is learned experiences. And my host or co-host today, I should say, is Gina Armetta. So Gina and I have worked together for the last 3 years, and combined we have about 20 years experience in outdoor kitchen design specifically. So I asked Gina to join me today because she's seen hundreds of outdoor kitchens, and she has a lot of knowledge in this field and has seen a lot of things is what I'll say. So we'll be going through kind of some of the common mistakes or common areas of opportunity, design opportunity that we've seen, and how we can get around them with modular kitchen design. So I'll let Gina talk about herself for a second, and then we'll get into it.
Ooh. Yes, Gina Armetta, nice to see you all. Thank you for joining us today. As Ashley said, I have about 10 years of experience in the outdoor world. Before that, in the interior world, in interior architecture. And I was fortunate to kind of land in this area and get to combine a lot of my passions in design, cooking. Grew up with an Italian mama, rolling meatballs at the counter at 2 years old, and love for food. So now I get to make it functional design, and I get to eat still. So that's great. All right, we'll jump in.
Good combination. So for the lessons that we're going to go through today, we basically spoke to our teams and asked them if they could come up with examples of certain opportunities that they see pretty regularly. And so throughout that, we definitely saw some themes. And so we're kind of going to go through those themes and use them as the lessons and the guidelines for today. And then we'll go through individual case studies of each of those themes. So the first one is accommodating plumbing and electrical lines. Obviously a consideration that you need for any kitchen design, but can be a little bit more challenging for outdoor kitchen design. Utilizing custom filler panels. We can use this in so many different ways. So we'll show you some special applications that we've done that. Accounting for clearances. So this again falls within any kitchen design, but can be extra challenging in the outdoor realm. And then considering appliance weights. So let us dive in. Lesson number 1, accommodating plumbing and electrical lines. I'm just going to remind everybody, because some people just joined, at the end of each lesson, we will ask if anybody has questions. So feel free to put them in the chat throughout, or wait until the end of that particular lesson, and then you can enter it in there. So before we get started into the case studies, we just wanted to kind of point out some tips and tricks that we've learned along the way, and how we can kind of get ahead of some common issues. So I'll let Gina take it from here.
Yeah. All right. So you're going to hear it probably much more than once from me today, but one of the biggest tips that we have for you is to make sure and do a preliminary site visit. And if possible, take photos and get them over to the manufacturer that you're working with on any of your outdoor kitchens that you're working on, so that we can do our best to accommodate any issues that we might see that weren't originally part of the plan. So site visits, as much as we would love to think that everything is being done on site as we have originally planned it, or as it is in plan, that's just not the way it goes oftentimes. And there are some major differences between indoor kitchens and outdoor kitchens that are just not as easy to accommodate. So we want to get ahead of those. Especially with gas and water lines or electrical, the better we have planned in advance to accommodate for them, the better your solution will be an installation, so that we don't have to try to accommodate it after the fact. Start early in the process.
Case study number 1.
Always early. What?
Oh, sorry. I was going ahead to case study number 1 to jump right into it.
Yep. Start early in the process. That's the biggest thing. We don't want to have to tear up patios because we didn't accommodate your gas and electrical lines. Okay. So here's one that we came across where the original plans that we received from the designer did not mention the gas pipe at all. We know there probably is one. We don't know where it's coming from, but a site visit was conducted where that gas pipe was discovered. And because we did that site visit, or we didn't, the contractor did the site visit and told us where that pipe was coming in, we were able to easily accommodate for it because they sent us detailed dimensions of it. You want to go to the next slide, Ashley? Thank you. And we were able to easily accommodate this one. As you see in the top left there, that's where that gas pipe is coming out. They said we've got about 5.5 inches of clearance here. Now, something to know about outdoor kitchens and something to always remember is that typically the cabinetry is much deeper than in an indoor kitchen. Standard is 24-inch depth on indoors. It's usually closer to 30 on outdoors because we want to accommodate for grill hood clearances and extra depth on pizza ovens and grills. Okay. So here we were able to easily accommodate for that gas pipe simply by doing a standard 24-inch depth cabinet. That way, the homeowner in this case still got full functional use of that space. They've got what they need. We're hiding that gas pipe. There is access. There's an access panel in the back of that cabinet. So should they ever need to access that gas pipe, they still can. So easy solution, but called out early and ahead of time so that we could ship the right product for them.
What I love about this solution too is from the front, you would have no idea that there's something non-standard about this. It's perfectly hidden. Like you said, you still have full function of that cabinet. So it's not a gas line going into the cabinet, which prevents drawers from closing or anything like that. Full functioning cabinet. And yeah, I think very intuitive solution. Case study number 2.
All right, another one where we were fortunate to get images and dimensions from the site so that, again, we can easily accommodate for that gas pipe. Had we not known it was there, we probably would have put a cabinet right up against this that wouldn't have worked out well. You would have had to cut into the cabinet, something along those lines, and not had your functional storage. So instead of doing that, because we had these detailed images and dimensions, we were able to accommodate this through the use of filler panels. And you see here on that end, we just put in a 6-inch filler panel there next to the cabinet so that they had plenty of room for that gas pipe. But you also want to remember that you don't want to make it look awkward. You want to make sure that this isn't the only area of the kitchen where you have a single 6-inch filler panel. So because of that, we made sure to incorporate them in other areas of the design as well. So you can see 6-inch fillers in the corner, as well as at the far end of this. So seamlessly integrated. Again, you would have no idea that the full intention of that original 6-inch filler was just to hide that gas pipe. All right.
We have our final case study for this lesson, which was a real lesson.
It was a real lesson. I have a lot of feels about this project. Being involved in it from design to implementation and the massive follow-up that has been done since then. So here's a situation where we have everything that we think that we need. We, as a manufacturer, have provided full construction documents, as you can see here, pointing to where all the gas, electrical, water, all of that needs to be accommodated. We sent all the spec sheets, all the user manuals, installation manuals, everything that the contractor would possibly need on site to get this properly installed. Those are unfortunately promptly ignored. So this became quite the headache for this homeowner, headache in the form of, things that can end up in lawsuits now. Because in order to fix this issue, first, Kalamazoo actually had to send down our own techs to assist, which we're happy to do. But we don't want to make a habit of it, right? Because of contractor issues. So we just needed to figure out how, because all of our installation guidelines were totally ignored with improper electrical, this one, they actually happened to hardline. So they cut our certified extensions and hardlined all of the electrical into the actual cabinet of the smoker and underneath the cabinet of the grill, which you never want to do. You always want to be able to quickly unplug any of your appliances. It's also part of all North American certifications to have just a simple, your manufacturer is always going to provide a simple plug-in. Just get that plugged in to a GFCI outlet, okay? Don't hardline it. Improper gas line setup. So there is a quick shutoff that we provide inside the grill. This contractor ran a second shutoff. So cut a hole through the bottom of the grill and actually ran a second shutoff inside of it. Really interesting. And then finally, the water line to the sink was fully piped in the path of the cabinet legs. So you'll see from the images, we had to totally rework where all of that came into the water, into the sink cabinet itself. Could have been pretty easily accommodated. Unfortunately, in this circumstance, all of the countertops had to be removed, of course, repurchased, recut, reinstalled. Ended up kind of being a good thing because none of the cabinets actually were leveled. So you couldn't open the drawers or doors properly either. All kinds of issues on this, but it is now solved. We have a nice kitchen, as you can see here, but took quite the effort on many people's part.
I do think it turned out beautifully. So at least the clients will be able to use this really beautiful space.
And the client is in love with it, and that's the end goal, but it could have been avoided.
We want to design functional spaces for our clients at the end of the day, and being able to get ahead of these, I'm going to say opportunities, is always a good thing. And it's just going to make it so much easier when it comes time for installation.
Right.
So that was the end of lesson 1. I don't see any questions in the chat. I will leave just a minute to see if anybody wants to add any comments or questions in there. If not, we will move on to question number 2. And by question number 2, I mean lesson number 2. Don't be shy, everybody. There's no bad questions as well. This is a learning experience. It's supposed to be interactive. So we're here to answer anything. And also, just if you have any comments throughout, feel free to put them in there. All right. I don't see anything coming in, so I won't put anybody on the spot. We'll move on to lesson number 2. Again, throughout, if you have any questions, just add it into the chat. So lesson number 2 was accommodating columns. So as you can see in this image here, this is something that we have to deal with sometimes, and we have some pretty interesting and unique ways to do that, in my opinion. So again, we'll always start off the lesson with getting ahead of some common issues or little tips and tricks that we can think of to make your life easier. So if you can get us this information sooner, then great. Go ahead, Gina.
And this is, I will say, this is an issue that we are seeing, over our combined years of experience, more and more often, because structure and shade in the outdoors is becoming more and more important. People want to be able to be outside year round in their beautiful spaces. So we see it more, and we need to accommodate it more and more often. So back to that thing that I said I was going to mention a lot, providing images, doing site visits, knowing what we're dealing with. That's the first priority here. When we're talking columns, and you'll see this in some of our examples, we always want to be talking about finished dimensions. So oftentimes in plans, we get the structural dimensions, which is great. But when we're talking about how we're actually going to finish these things off, we need the finished dimensions. We always want to consider tolerances around any of our poster columns. We know that things don't always end up. So you had a material change, anything like that could have happened. You want to allow for a little bit of a tolerance around any of these columns, even if we do know what the intended finished column dimensions are. And filler panels, it's really an easy way to accommodate these. So talk to your manufacturer, especially if it's Kalamazoo or Urban Bonfire, about how we can accommodate this.
All right. The first case study.
Yeah. So this one has both. It has a couple of different areas of, we could say problems. We say opportunities, right?
We're saying opportunities
of where we can look at accommodating a few different things on this site. So one kitchen is fit between 2 walls, right? So we're being told in these dimensions here that we have 128 inches between the finished walls on this. And then you see the L-shaped kitchen. We are also between 2 columns and incorporating one of the columns into the design itself. So we have the sketches, which is great. And then we also were able to obtain the images from the site visit. So you can see here where, again, structural is great, but we don't know the finished. So the plans that they provided were pretty exact, which is wonderful, because those were finished dimensions, which we'll see on the next slide. And I just want to point out here, sorry. pretty simple. It's pretty standard. Your structural posts are probably 6x6s in this case, and unfinished walls that we know at some point are going to be, of course, finished. So let's take a look at the project and how we were able to work with this. So we were provided the finished dimensions, as you see here. So the 6x6s became finished at 1'4". So we can easily talk about what we need there. Here you can see, obviously, we want to incorporate it into the kitchen itself so that you have a little bit of counter area there. As much counter area as possible in all kitchens, indoor and out, is great. But we've got a post running through it, right? So we can't do a full custom cabinet here. So here we've asked that there's counter support provided on site. And then what Urban Bonfire did in this circumstance is we simply provided finished back panels that attach on one side to our cabinets and then on the other side to the finished column. Okay, so easy solution to be able to accommodate that column there. And then you'll see on the right side here as well, where we have that second kitchen and the grill run there. And there's one major thing that I want to point out here. And this is the filler panel that you see on the far right side next to that drawer over door cabinet. So we know that we were given the dimensions of 128 inches, but we also know in outdoors, nothing's level, nothing's straight, nothing's flat. So intentionally, patios have to be sloped. They're never level. Masonry is never straight, never flat. So filler panels are a great way to accommodate those on edges, especially if there's any question at all as to what that masonry dimension will be. If you think about it too, if we had not included that filler panel, which could be cut on site if there were any issues, but that filler panel there is also preventing that drawer and door from squeaking out and running up or hitting against that brick or masonry wall there. So we were able to get a lot out of a couple very quick fixes here. All right.
What I love about this too is that because of the custom corner panels, it could be exactly the size that they needed it to be so that it fits perfectly between these two columns. And it just makes it such a custom finished look. Like it looks like it was so intentional and it was supposed to be there, which is one of the biggest things we say about outdoor kitchen design is that you want it to look intentional and fit with the rest of the house. We do have a question that came in. Gina, do you want to answer a question now?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to.
So somebody asked, would you not install the counter before the finished stonework? It looks like there's no counter in place yet.
It's a great question. So in some circumstances, yes, but the cabinetry is always going to have to be installed first, right, before those cabinets. So once you're butting up to that finished column, right, once we need to know that dimension, you got to get that panel in there, especially because it's attaching to that column there, and then put in your countertops. I think that countertops, regardless in this, especially because they're going to have to be measured and done on site. Countertops, we always recommend being measured after countertops being measured after the cabinets and finished work are done. Again, because of any inconsistencies that you might have.
I would say that we've seen it both ways too. I've definitely seen it where they finish the material to a certain point, then get the cabinets cut and then finish the material down towards it. I would say it kind of depends on your fabricator and what they're comfortable with as well, to be honest. But in this case, because they were attaching those panels to the surface, I guess that they figured it was easier to do it that way. It can cause some issues for sure, be a little bit more difficult for the fabricator because, like we said, it's not a flat surface, but it really depends on from one to the other. Yeah. All right, case study number 2.
All right, so this is a large U-shaped kitchen done for a celebrity client in LA, where again, you can see that there is a column going right through the middle of that long back run that we needed to accommodate there because between countertop and a couple of pizza ovens. And again, very simple. We accommodated this with a filler panel. They wanted this to be all stainless steel below counter, so pretty simple. The only thing that we wanted to be sure, because we didn't know complete finish on this, we know that this was done in original site. We didn't have any site plans for this done, or any site visits done on this with complete measurements after all finishes. So here we did accommodate this by adding a few extra inches to the panel on this. You'll see that panel is just a little bit bigger than what that column is, just to make sure that our fully functional cabinets on either side would be able to integrate there just fine.
Like we said, we always have to accommodate for small details in the outdoor. It's rarely that anything is ever perfectly flat or perfectly straight. So having that little bit of tolerance around the column will just make your life so much easier. And for the client, they're not going to notice an inch on each side of it, and they'll appreciate it once the installation goes smoothly. So we just had 2 case studies for lesson number 2. Do we have any questions? I know that Eric put one in the chat as we went through, which is great. Are there any other questions as we get to the end of it and before we get into lesson number 3? All right, so we do have one that came in. It's another countertop question. How do you feel about glued bevels to make the counters look thicker?
Yeah, I don't feel good about them. I'm going to be pretty blunt about that. And the reason is that those glues, for the most part, are not intended to be outside in sun, shade, weather for long periods of time, and they can degrade really quickly. So if possible to avoid a built-up edge, it's ideal in the outdoors. You want to leave it as a single slab.
There are some climates or some fabricators who say they won't do it. I'm personally in Montreal, so we have huge variations between summer and winter temperatures, and it's really hard for any adhesive substance to hold up to any of those temperatures, let alone the swing between the two of them. So we have some fabricators here who just pretty much refuse to do it because they know that it will degrade over time.
Great.
Any other questions? No, we'll jump into lesson number 3. So considering clearances, we have here a great example of where there's plenty of clearance between all of the appliances and the cabinetry to make sure that everything is fully functional. But we do run into some issues where we don't have this much space. Right. So getting ahead of some common issues again. Gina, take it away.
All right. So you can see here, if somebody was actually cooking in this kitchen, it's going to be one somebody, right? So you're not going to have multiple cooks in this kitchen. So we want to certainly avoid putting multiple appliances together in a corner. It's a little bit awkward, especially when you get into thinking about the bull noses on most outdoor grills, flat tops, whatever it might be in this circumstance. Those get pretty bulky, pretty large most of the time. So we really have to think about those appropriately. And then making sure, of course, as you know, kind of as we saw with that one case study where we're opening and closing drawers and things that could hit masonry, same thing we want to consider here with bull noses, making sure that all of our drawers, doors, all of that open appropriately without any issue because of those appliances. So adequate spacing. All right, let's jump into it. We do sometimes see curved kitchens, not as often, but this is actually a dealer display in Mexico City where the request was for a curved kitchen, and we wanted to be able to accommodate a little bit more storage in here, but it is a defined space. So if we wanted more cabinetry in here, as you can imagine, if we had more than one single cabinet between these two beautiful appliances, then they would open and likely hit each other. So in this particular circumstance, we went robust with our single door cabinet that has plenty of space for grilling utensils, wood, charcoal, whatever you might need for your grills as well. Again, if you put more than one thing in here, then you would run into issues with allowing them to fully open and function properly.
This was really a puzzle. Usually we see 90-degree angles or 45-degree angles, but this one was really unique. And it did take us a minute to figure out exactly what all of those filler panels needed to be to make sure that all of this fully functioned, especially when you have these beautiful appliances and you want to be able to make sure that you can utilize the entire thing and that it's functional. So this is a neat solution. Like I said, a bit of a puzzle for this one. Case study number 2 was a little bit more standard in that it is a U-shaped 90-degree kitchen, but still lots of things to consider on this one.
That's right. If we could have squeaked out one more foot in here, that would have been great, but we couldn't. So we're dealing on this kitchen with only 4 feet between the 2 runs. So pretty narrow space. To start, we did, you'll see in plan, we did move things around a little bit just as far as the actual functional appliances go. Again, but thinking about what they already have on site. So making sure that we're not moving sink, ice, things like that need the water lines where they already are. But if you take a look, and here's where we relocated some things to make sure that we weren't running into any issues with and giving a little bit more clearance to things like the pizza oven to make sure that we had area to actually make pizzas and put them down when they come out of the oven. People oftentimes forget about that, and that's something that we see often is that you pack a lot of appliances into a small space, and then you don't even have a place to put down a pair of tongs. I always say even a Weber gas grill has 2 side shelves, right? So you can put something down, and then we have these beautiful, not cheap outdoor kitchens where you can't do that. So always thinking about your counter space and adjacencies here. All right. But because of those bowl noses that are pretty big, we did have to make some quick adjustments on site. The countertop had to be cut a little bit extra on that where that cooktop is, and it had to be moved back to make sure to accommodate that 12-inch pullout there. You can see it just barely squeaks out under that control knob there. So
this was
a lot of stuff packed into a small space here.
This was the before picture as well. So once we pushed back the cooktop, there is more space. It's not that close. But just to show you that these bull noses can really make a difference in the design. And it's something that you really need to consider that you don't really think of in indoor kitchen design, just because the design of the appliances is so different. So one of those distinct differences, but a lot of the same principles of kitchen design apply indoor and outdoors. But then sometimes in the outdoor, there are just these little extra details that you really do need to consider. So that was the end of lesson 3. Do we have any questions about clearances or anything that you saw throughout those slides? Gina, I think it's because you're doing such a thorough job that nobody could possibly need any additional information.
I think it's because we're partners in crime here, Ashley. Yeah. All right.
All right. So lesson number 4, considering appliance weights. This isn't one that we run into too often, but it is one that we thought was worth talking about just because, again, in the outdoor world, you have the opportunity to really integrate appliances and specialty cooking equipment that you don't necessarily have the option to in indoor applications. So pizza ovens are the one that we see the most often. We have Kamado Joe's here. So there's lots of different varieties of appliances that can be quite heavy. And so this is the way that we got ahead of some of those.
I actually just want to point out that last image real quick. These happen to be Big Green Eggs, but Kamado style cookers, big, heavy, ceramic. These really do need a lot of extra support. So I just want to point out in this, so aluminum cabinetry, and you'll see that there is a countertop piece below that Kamado style cooker, which is really making sure that the weight of that is helping to be distributed over all the bracing in that cabinet below too. So even just a simple, very popular style of grill, little things that make a big difference in how the weight is accommodated there. But we'll move to a real case study, all right, or common issues. So one, refrigeration is never load bearing in outdoors or at any time. So we want to make sure that we're really not focusing any type of heavy countertop appliances, usually pizza ovens, over the countertops without plenty of structural support around them. Always make sure if you're working with a cabinetry manufacturer to provide any specs for something that might be different, any specs on weight, get those over to them so that they can make sure that their cabinetry is able to accommodate, or they can figure out how to incorporate it into a design, as we'll see.
I'll add on to that too, because so often these pizza ovens are countertop applications that people don't necessarily consider providing the specifications or the details of it because it's not something that's getting integrated into the kitchen. It's just something that's sitting on top. But if we know about them, it's so much easier to get ahead of these issues. Like Gina said, we can plan for those landing zones, but also we can just tell you really where the best location is for these appliances and if any additional support is needed. So really great if we can get all of that information as well. So case study number 1.
All right, this is a big one. So pizza oven in the corner there, if you see the weight of that puppy, it is 2,700 pounds. It's a big guy. They have full appliance power in here. They've got 2 grills, smoker, and a massive pizza oven. We're going to focus our efforts on that pizza oven in the corner because it is countertop. So they wanted this kitchen to be fully integrated, seamlessly designed, but we definitely know that aluminum cabinetry isn't going to be able to handle 27 pounds, 27 it could handle 2,700, probably not. All right, so we were able to come up with a solution that looks good, is functional, and can support that weight. So what we did is we provided that single cabinet, that open shelf cabinet there, where you can have all your wood for that lovely pizza oven. But then around that cabinet itself, on site, they're able to build all of the structural support needed for that pizza oven. Additionally, we have these corner filler panels that clip onto the cabinets on either side so that, again, it's seamlessly integrated. You don't have to run stonework in between all of the cabinets. Everything is still in that beautiful clay finish from Urban Bonfire.
I think this is kind of like that first example that we showed with the 24-inch depth cabinet. It's from the front, you have no idea what's happening behind. And I think that's really a sign of good, thoughtful design, is that everything is happening behind the scenes. All of the chaos is happening where the client cannot see it. So I think this is a really good application for that. Do we have any questions about lesson number 4? I see we have one that's saying, how do you miter metal corner fillers?
So for a couple of different, so first on the, yep. So thanks for the clarification, Lisa. Actually, question on that. So for our filler panels, they are actually attaching to the cabinets. Now the bending, because this is aluminum, would actually, it is a little bit pliable on site. Ideally not too much. We know what that angle is, but then it's going to clip literally to the appliances on either side, or to the cabinetry on either side. So they're fastened to the cabinets themselves. Is that
so Lisa, I'm going to add to that too, just because I think I might understand where the question is coming from. The 2 4-inch pieces that you see from the front are one piece. So it's one piece that is angled at that 135-degree angle. Like Gina said, there is some give to that, but we'll always ask for what the angle of the piece needs to be that we manufacture. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. In this particular case, it's an Urban Bonfire kitchen. So this is one that we manufactured. And if we know the angle of the piece, we're usually able to accommodate that. And within a couple of degrees, it can be moved around. And so it's just attached on the sides. It's not attached in that middle seam.
Yeah, correct. And Kalamazoo would do the same. We will ask for that angle so that we can bend it properly. Stainless steel, a little bit harder to work with though.
Yeah, a little less give.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we move on to the conclusion? Or feel free, as I'm kind of running through the conclusion, to write in any extra questions here. We can go back to other slides if there's specific examples that you want to see again. But really, the everything that we said today was things that we learned as we went along. So it's completely understandable as people who are just starting out in outdoor kitchen design, or if you've been doing this for many years, you're always going to come across something new. And so the whole purpose of today was really so that everybody else could learn from our experiences and some of the unique opportunities that we run into almost, I'm not going to say daily, but weekly. We always have different challenges that we're trying to get around. So these are some of the ones that we saw, the most often. But if you're ever in a situation that you want to use a modular kitchen design, but you aren't sure if we can accommodate certain details, plumbing, less deep cabinets, anything like that, do reach out to us, because often we can come up with some sort of solution. So first point, modular systems can offer some flexibility. It isn't so rigid. It's not, it's this or nothing. We're really happy to work with you to make sure that we can find a solution that is perfectly integrated and suited for your client. Work with the team to determine what the best options are and what is going to work best for your specific challenge or project. Maybe it's something that we've seen before and we can say right off the bat, like, this is how we've done it in the past. Happy to accommodate this for you, or we can figure it out together. I do find that a mix of custom and standard elements can accommodate most design challenges. And I do feel like we see this more and more, especially because people are really trying to get that feel of indoors, outdoors. So they're using a lot of those mixed materials so that they can bring some of those materials inside or that are on the side of the house into the outdoor kitchen as well. So it really does feel like it's fully part of the entire design and was considered from the beginning. And then the earlier challenges are known about, the more details provided, the higher likelihood of success. So at the beginning, just try to get, like we said, that site visit, those images. We're going to repeat this over and over. The more information that we have, the more accurate the drawings can be, and the more detailed and specified they'll be for your client. And then obviously follow construction documentation. We do provide this for a reason. It will be really helpful for installation. In outdoors, it's really not as easy as it is in an indoor kitchen. If you need to replumb something, often you can go into a basement or there's somewhere else where you can access this. This is not the case outdoors. We don't want anybody to have to tear up all of their patio stones or, undo all of the work that their contractor or any landscaper just did. So try to get ahead of this and follow that construction documentation. So I do think that there are some questions that came in, thankfully. We do have a question about range hoods. It looks like any insight into hoods when fully or partially undercover. Can you address the height above the unit, pizza oven, grill, burner, etc.? Any sight into range hood controls integration? Gina, I might let you take over for this one.
Yeah. So much insight. It is a huge question for the outdoors, so much so that I think that there's a good chance that we're going to have another design dialogues specifically on overhead structures, range hoods, vent hoods, and how to deal with them. I'm going to answer your question on height above unit, pizza oven, burner, grill, same as it is in indoors. You're going to be a max of about 36 inches above finished counter height. But you're dealing with wind oftentimes outdoors, and that's all. I'm going to leave that there. We're happy to look at any specific projects that you have. We have a lot of experience in this area. If you have questions until we have another design dialogue about specifically this specific question, send us the plans. We'll take a look at it. Don't do internal controls in the meantime, or range hood controls, because oftentimes grills are much hotter than your standard indoor cooking range. So if you're burning charcoal, wood, anything like that, any type of plastic things that are above it are going to get hot and they're going to melt. So, okay. That's what I'm saying for now.
Perfect. Thanks, Gina. Cynthia, this particular presentation doesn't qualify for NKBA CEU, but we will be doing them quarterly. So keep an eye out for that. We have one that's coming up in March and that will qualify for an NKBA CEU. Eric has a question. What are you finding are the most favored finished materials and combo of materials these days? I can maybe jump on that one, and then Gina, I'll let you add on. What we're seeing on probably more the urban bonfire side, because the urban bonfire in Kalamazoo, they do have very different color options. So for urban bonfire, a huge increase that we've seen is in our clay finish, which is basically our sand tone. So we're definitely seeing an increase in those desert kind of warmer, neutral tones, those kind of soft, warm tones. Anthracite was our most popular color for the longest time, which is like our charcoal, that kind of deep gray, but clay is really coming up there. So we're certainly seeing an increase in that. On the Kalamazoo side, do you know which one's the most popular, Gina? I know they're a little bit newer on the Kalamazoo side too, so the sample size is a bit smaller.
Yep. Actually, it's hard to see in this particular kitchen, but this is our Ipe wood finish. And it's a 50-50 split between our Ipe wood finish and all other colors that we're doing right now. So that Ipe has a really nice warm tone to it, or, our stainless steel, because it's easy to clean. It's meant to be outside in sun, rain, all of that. So certainly more warmer tones. And then I think as far as other finished materials or combo of materials go, it's very regional, certainly. So where we see this kitchen that you see here happens to be in Utah. Do we see a lot of more traditional, brickwork and things like that on the parts of the East Coast, in the mountain areas. And then we see a lot of composite materials, things like Decton in outdoor finishes, a little bit more modern in coastal areas. So kind of depends on where you are, but we see a lot, and we do see a lot of those composite materials. They're making a big push into the outdoor market, and they're great. Because I see another question here also from Eric on grills going against the wall with blackened surfaces. Yes, it will blacken the surface. I can't tell you how many people I've had ask, like, can I put this against white brick? You could, but it's going to be very dirty. So having a cleanable surface behind your grill becomes very important, most definitely.
I think the material that we see probably the most often in conjunction with the metal is stone, because people are trying to soften up that metal feel. When you think of a metal cabinet, you think super modern, contemporary, but when it has this surround that's stone, we had an application that had, these beautiful reclaimed wood shelves around it. And depending on the handle finishes and everything that you choose, it can totally change the look of that metal cabinet. So it really depends on the architecture, obviously, but stone is definitely one of the materials that we see the most next to the metal, I would say. Lisa also shared a lesson that she learned with everybody, which I think can certainly be helpful, but it was that on her first kitchen is to measure the slope of the floor. They had a huge height difference over the run, and the standard toe kicks could not accommodate that. We have seen this, depending how long the kitchen is, there can be a huge difference between one side to the other side. So certainly look out for that slope, because the majority of outdoor surfaces, the majority of them, the vast majority of them are certainly sloped.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're going with standard slope, your average, 2-inch leveling leg on a modular style cabinet is going to get you 12 to 14 feet of run before you have to think about something else to help accommodate that. So whether it's a level pad specifically run under that kitchen area, things like that, or making sure that you have a toe kick that you can cut on site that's a little bit bigger. So a few different things that can accommodate that. But yeah, you absolutely have to watch for slope. And if you have any concerns, again, reach out to your manufacturer so that they can check it for you.
Yeah, again, work with the manufacturer, because they've seen a lot of different things, and they've probably come across this before and might have an easy solution for you. So hopefully we can get ahead of that. I'm just going to go to the next page. We do have some design guides and tips that are available through this QR code. So if you do want to just take a picture of that or scan that right now, it will bring you to the Kalamazoo website. We do have some really, really great pieces of content there that can assist with any outdoor kitchen design. I've included mine and Gina's email addresses here as well. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. I will follow up with everybody who is on this call. I'll invite you to our next design dialogue session, which is going to be about wellness in the outdoor space. So feel free to please register for that if you enjoyed this. For everybody who has come in the past, thank you again for attending, and I hope to see you again.